The Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria, CIFSIN, has identified the use of fake credentials in the country as a major blemish in the nation's image, on the nation's image, as a matter of fact. Well, pioneer president of the institute, Dr. Ilyasu Gashinbaki, says the institute will take the lead in investigating and providing evidence to rid the nation of image thieves. Dr. Ilyasu Gashinbaki, pioneer president, Chartered Institute of Forensics, joins me now, but not before this report.
Image theft and data breaches are some fraudulent and corrupt practices identified in the nation's public service, referencing cases like that of former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Salisu Buhari, who admitted to falsifying his age and educational qualifications, and disgraced former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, accused of submitting a forged NYSC certificate. The Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria is vowing to rid Nigeria of fake credentials. Citing the case of 19-year-old Mmesoma, who fraudulently inflated her JAMB score in 2023, the institution laments that falsification of credentials has eaten deep into the nation's fabrics.
What can be more appalling than that? If we are saying in one bit that, okay, politicians are doing this, so on the other angle now we are seeing almost minus, 19 years. There is even dispute as to whether she is 19 or 18. So the whole idea is that it's a young teenage girl. And we all remember how she was arguing with JAM. It went back and forth. Policymakers had to do it. It was embarrassing that we have a situation where somebody that is just 19 can perpetuate that kind of national crime and embarrassment to the nation to forge her own score.
The institute is also partnering with the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, to improve electoral processes and ensure candidates are well scrutinized ahead of elections.
So, from politicians to the education sector to the private sector, I don't know what else to say, but that is the country that we find ourselves in. What we are saying this morning is that somebody need to stop, somebody need to stand up to say this must stop.
The pioneer president further tasked the graduates of the institute to assist the government in combating corruption, recovering stolen assets, and supporting economic development, among others, to prefer a comprehensive approach to poverty alleviation in Nigeria and Africa. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
Right, I have joining me now Dr. Ilyasu Gashinbaki. He's the president of that body. It looks like it's a new body that's just been inaugurated. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Pioneer president of the CIFSIN.
Yes, CIFSIN. Yeah.
Almost a tongue twister there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. How significant, really, a crime is it? How bad is it in Nigeria? This certificate of faking of credentials and image stealing. And it does seem that those who commit this don't understand that it is a national offense.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ngozi. It cut across literally every segment of the society, because I think before the EFCC was established, literally every document in Nigeria, and I mean it, every single document can be forged. It was with the coming of the EFCC that we saw Oluwole was dismantled, the famous Oluwole in Lagos and all of that. And again, of course, the country progressed in trying to improve, but we have not seen it completely eliminated. As we can see now is, you notice issues of certificate forgery in the election management process, in the identity management process, with educational institutions. We've seen it in the revenue and the financial sector. People are forging receipts and all sorts of things within the revenue management sector.
Right.
And then, of course, the one that we came out to
Focus on.
focus on, yes, because it cut across these 4 areas. We felt that one of the key areas to address is the one that is in the election management process.
Right.
And that's the reason why we went to the Inter-Party Advisory Council, because that council consists of the 18 political parties in this country. So we engaged them on the need to ensure that at least between now and 2027, we should put in a process in place that makes it impossible for anybody with dubious credentials to stand for elections. And the idea is that we are requesting them to put it in the regulations of their political parties ahead of their primaries. Because as it is now, the only recourse that the country has is Section 29 of the Electoral Act that says that candidates swore affidavit on, and that's the much that can happen. But we've seen that people have damned the consequences of that, because on and on, politicians have breached that, and they have filed papers that eventually turned out not to be true.
And that's where I would like to ask, why has this gone on over time beyond the electoral process and politicians, faking credentials and stealing, other image stealing, that's what you call it.
Yes.
Is it that the institutions themselves that are meant to oversee and ensure that this does not happen, they're not stringent enough, or they just actually take it for granted that this could be happening?
No, it's a
what exactly is responsible for it?
Well, it's a combination of weak institutions and also lack of consequence.
Right.
Because once there is no consequence, people do whatever they like. And in this case, we are not just, the whole project is not just also the political sector. If you look at the identity management process, from passports, visa document, every travel documents in Nigeria, at some point, again, even though it has assuaged a little bit, but literally every other thing can be forged. You remember when Trump was president, he decided to ban Nigerians from permanent migration.
Yeah.
And the reason was that every document in Nigeria can be compromised. So again, as we have engaged the Inter-Party Advisory Council at the level of the election management process, just last week, we have engaged the Minister of Interior. We had a very, very robust conversation as to how the Institute will work with the Minister of Interior to see that we provide additional firewall, additional review and oversight as regards their documentation.
Let us into some of the details without letting out too much to compromise your work. In what specific areas will you be providing?
To give, maybe to put the whole thing in context, is that the institute is constituted, the council of the institute, we have some strategic government department on the council of the institute: Ministry of Justice, Finance, Health, Science and Tech, Police Service Commission, Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, Ministry of Interior. These are all institutional members of Council of the Institute. Now, Section 13 of the law also empowers the Institute to establish laboratories that will do forensic analysis for government, for the private sector, for law enforcement, and for individuals. Now, the Council of the Institute has approved the establishment of 5 forensic laboratories. The document forensic laboratories, the digital forensic lab, the medical forensic lab, the engineering lab, and then the physical and then ballistic forensic laboratory. Now, two most crucial to identity management is the digital forensic lab and the document forensic lab. Right. So we are at the initial stages of its rollout. Before the end of this year, they will be fully functional. And once that these two laboratories are up, I can guarantee you that there will be no way that forged certificate will find its way into our electoral management space. And then when you come to the part of the travel documents and other associated credentials also, we are guaranteeing Nigerians that that will be the end of it, working with the Ministry of Interior. That
sounds great, and we're going to be keeping an eye on your institute to see what impact this would have on, this rather embarrassing, situation for Nigeria. Thank you for your work. Dr. Ilyasu Gashinbaki is the pioneer president of the Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria.
Thank you so much for having me.